So the subject that I'm presenting, I think it's something that's been going on of late. More and more, there are now discussions around it, between PMO and the Change Management Office, the CMO. But the challenge is that a little bit more still needs to be done. And we will try to unpack that, point out the direction of where that additional effort can be put in terms of integrating the PMO and the CMO. So just continuing introducing ourselves a little bit more. Human Change Management Institute, HUCMI, has been around for quite a number of several years. Currently, we operate in 27, we've got 27 training centers around the globe. We have amazing trainers that provide this training, people that have been trained, that have actually been in the trenches, that have been involved in more concepts of change management execution. So we are able to give you that value add when it comes to discussing, I think, some of the topics that you may have. We are also a qualified education provider by the Association of Change Management Professionals. We are PMI recognized, so if you do take courses with us, you get some professional development units, from the Project Management Institute. And we are looking forward to interacting with you and engaging with you. We have an amazing team of people. We work together, we learn from each other, and we continue to develop knowledge. So our knowledge base, just sticking to our knowledge areas, we have several books that we have published which form part of our knowledge base, which form the basis for our training. The first three that you see there, it's the HCM book, Human Body of Change Management. When we deliver training, we pick up quite a great deal more, and as we interact and as new learnings come onto the market as well, we like to incorporate that, and that is the basis on the additional additions that you see in the middle there. So these are more recent pieces of work, right? The two that in orange that you see in the middle, and right at the end on your far right, we have what we call our new baby. Something that is new we've introduced because we recognize that there is a need to specifically look at agile projects and the applicable change management approach for that. So we've got a new book right there you see on your extreme right, where we delve a little bit more into that. These books, you get limited editions on our website if you'd like to get a look and feel at what our knowledge base is all about. All right, so just to open up, to discuss, open up the topic around the seamless integration between PMO and CMO, you'll find that strategic planning is a set of intentions, that we put in place at the beginning of the project. Well-meaning intentions. We've got several objectives that need to be met, and this is what what strategy planning is all about. And then we've got the programs, the projects, the teams, the people we have working on those particular projects, and their role is really to transform the intentions into actions. Very simple, right? Let's move on. You have right there, sorry, I like to put everything here so I don't get surprises. All right. So you have, I think the VUCA concept really describes what goes on, in any project life cycle. You get volatility and uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, and this really describes the exponential changes that each project goes through, right? And with each project, you've got I think business mandates that you've been tasked upon. You look at as you go through the several cycles of your projects, you're going to find that business will be pressing on productivity, the need for that project being in place, to increase profitability, organizational profitability, competitiveness, longevity. So sometimes it's a combination of all four. Sometimes it's maybe priority just on one, but there is that pressing need, you know, which actually drives the exponential changes described by the VUCA concept. And this is true when we do roll out the current projects that we are tasked with. All right, and obviously this the mandate more is to look at organizational transformation as you go through, you know, the various cycles of your projects. All right, so we had the original paradigm of project management. This is our old school way of thinking. We had the project management office, and traditionally, I think you just had to look at three aspects of delivery. It was scope of the project, the cost, how much will it cost, you know, to roll out the project, and the time, you know, is it 3 months, 6 months, is it a year? And you find that those three were the main priorities of projects, you know, back in the day. In some organizations, you still find it to be like that. They still operate with that old paradigm, but not anymore, right? It's not required, you know, that you just look at, your mandate is no longer looking at cost, scope, time. There is now an introduction rather, of a new stakeholder, right? And that's where the focus has also shifted to as well. That's the fourth important component, and therefore the need for project management office to look at change management. All right, so the new paradigm of project management, a successful project is the one that delivers strategic goals. The new mandate of the CIO is to become more transformational. So your leadership qualities, there is more of a demand around your change leadership qualities. You know, how creative are you? Are you innovative around your approaches? And you find that you place in a situation where the things are changing a little bit faster than what they used to be before. So there's really more pressure now than ever before on you know, that role of the successful change manager, and within this new paradigm that we have. All right, so it's also become on your C-level, these are your executive professionals within IT, that you need to have change leadership skills, right? In order for you to be an effective partner in leading change management projects. So you're not just relying on you know, outside consultants for this particular skill. You need to have this as part and parcel of your, you know, of your skills, of your skill set. And even though this study was done by EY 2014, you find that that need has probably existed, you know, a little bit earlier. That you need to have the ability to operate as a change management consultant, you know, within your bigger team as well, and also as a strategic change management, you know, executioner as well. So very important. This is the new requirement of IT professionals, especially in the executive management levels. All right, we love to have studies to drive the point home, and you know, sticking to form. We have come about with a few studies just to drive the point home, and for you to get and capture what the essence of what we're talking about. So when we look at transforming strategy into results, that is still a big challenge in most organizations. In a study done, you know, by Zook and Allen, in 2010, they found that 7 out of 8 companies in a global sample of about 2,000 large organizations have not been successful in increasing profitability as planned in strategic objectives. All right, still a disappointment, and I've seen some earlier studies as well. The picture really has not changed that much. Strategic planning versus business results, again, very disappointing. From a 2005 Harvard Business Review finding, they found that 95% of employees of an organization are unaware of the strategy. That is scary. And then still looking at strategy planning versus business results, the bonuses of employees is more than 90% of cases. In more than rather 90% of cases, have no connection with the success or failure of the strategic initiatives. All right, can we start sensing the disconnect there that we need to address? That again is very worrying. I know it's an earlier study, but the picture has not changed that much in current studies that have been done around the same topic. All right, carrying on again with our studies around strategic planning versus business results. We found that, again, in the Harvard Business Review, in 67% of the organizations, HR and IT managers develop activities without aligning them with the strategic plan. It's a painful process. It does happen. And there's some cultures currently in organizations now that actually still encourage this. And we all know that this can have dire consequences at the end. It will not end well, as the new saying goes these days. So strategy planning versus business results. So from the studies that we have, even other current studies that we have out there that you do have access to, you find that there's still a gap between planning and execution, which needs to be addressed. Now, if you look at the mandate of the Office of Strategy Management, this is basically what it looks like, you know, when they set out a new strategy for the year. You find that they'll set about, various strategies for the different areas. I would like you to maybe pay attention to the middle part right there, where the Office of the Strategy Management oversees alignment of all management processes with strategy. So they're looking at your CFO, your human resources head, your CIO, your COO, and they're looking at how what they are doing is aligned to the organizational strategy. And you can also see that the input that has come from the board right up at the top right there. So their mandate is to make sure that the strategy elements in each of those particular areas is executed. And it also becomes priority within the portfolios of the areas that traditionally did not have it. So your CFOs, your financial leads, your HR people as well, and the CIO, typically there wouldn't be a greater mandate placed upon them in the past than there is now in terms of execution of strategy and inclusion of strategy within what they do. So the new challenge is, as you can see from the previous slide I just presented right there, is for the PMO to become stakeholder driven. So there is a need to really understand what the various stakeholders that you're delivering projects to require, how to manage some of the sometimes wild expectations, or how to push further where the expectations are quite low, and how to actually make sure that whatever you are doing, there's also buy-in right from the beginning and involvement. So you find that a lot of what you do, it's based around interaction with the rest of the team, the rest of the organizations. There are vendors coming in, when you do introduce vendors to be part and parcel, they're also coming with their own culture as well. So stakeholder management has become very important for the PMO. Hence, we're discussing change management within your areas. All right. So just looking at that right now, the leader's focus is on transformation of the organization and the strategic objectives, as I mentioned earlier on. All right. So more of a wider role than what you have experienced before. And I think it gets a little bit frustrating because traditionally, you did know this and just work on what you're comfortable with. So you're getting a space that is totally new. That seems like a mysterious place for leadership alignment, but it's not really that difficult. And we will try to break it down for you and simplify it for you, as we have done with all concepts of HCM. All right, so just looking at the current drivers for success, we took this out of the enabling organizational change through strategic initiatives. It's a pulse of the profession in-depth report by the PMI. So current drivers of change in summary are as follows: standardized project management practices. Okay, that's probably a given. Engaged sponsors, right? So we no longer just put someone's name, on our governance model as sponsors, just to have it there and maybe they sign off. The sponsor has to be involved right from the beginning. They need to be available. They need to have certain roles within the RACI matrix. They need to be included in there as well. And you need to engage with them and, throughout, from initiating right up to the production stage of your project. So it's very important to have an engaged sponsor. If you do not, you are operating at the greatest risk that your project can ever operate at. There's nothing worse than a disengaged sponsor, and we all know that, or too many sponsors. We need one sponsor fully dedicated, showing high availability, and this is one of the key drivers of success. That's why we put it in red there. Okay. And then managing people through change. We've just spoken about it. You now need to be a little bit more cautious and conscious of the different people, the different stakeholders, meeting up with their challenges, how to handle antagonism, how to handle resistance, how to get buy-in. And this has become more and more a part, as important as you execute the technical components of your projects. The human element, I would say, has become just as important as well. So something to be very important about. And as we say, this came out of a report from the PMI, being one of the key drivers of success that they pointed out within that report. Okay, so change management, very important factor. Again, pulse of the profession 2014 from the PMI. We find that, for projects to be on budget, where they had change management in red right there, they were on budget 63% of the time. And where the change management did not exist, only 36% success in terms of, meeting the budget. And then being on time, you find that without change management, most projects are only on time 34% of the time, or they would be on time for 34% of the time, and 60% or 64% of the time with change management as a factor, and with change management being part and parcel, and an intentional part and parcel of your projects. And we also found that only 31% of the projects meet the goals without change management, and with change management, they meet the goals 65% of the time. And I don't think there's any clearer indication right here than what we have in this report. Similar reports also give us the same thing from various sources. So we cannot argue, around the importance of change management as being a major factor in your projects. In some cases, in fact, almost in all cases, you see that your success in implementing on budget, on time, and meeting the goals that have been laid out, it's almost doubled with the inclusion of change management. Okay, so to turn intention into action, right? One of the integrating and strategic management of projects and change is the most effective way. Okay, so this is a leader from the previous slide that I've just presented to you. You need to include change. I don't think there's any question about it. Okay, and I know that in some cases it seems, like I said to you, a very mysterious component, but change management, we've made it easier, from our side, from HCM Bulk. is not that mystery where you really relied on professionals. It's something that you can actually carry out as well, as members of the PMO, as project leads, as heads within your separate areas. So it is a mandate placed upon you that, for you to be successful in terms of delivering your projects, you need to integrate, and you need to have integration and strategic management of projects and the changes that have been laid out for you, and using change management to bring about that effectiveness. Okay, so the third generation of change management, right? Just in summary, okay. So strategic change management from the portfolio has become very, very important mandate for the PMO. And integration between the CMO and the PMO as well cannot be questioned anymore. That's something that needs to happen with much better fluidity, and with more attention. So it is a mandate placed upon both the CMO and the PMO to really, first of all, understand what the priorities are in each particular area, and to see the areas of integration as well. And doing it in a participatory way is the way that we'll probably encourage, so that there is co-creation on both parties in terms of what needs to be done out there. And so that it's not a mystery anymore. And it's not something that happens separately in the corner somewhere, or where the project manager randomly asks for some communication ad hoc, or some team building ad hoc. It needs to be planned and integrated right at the beginning. And there needs to be clarity and understanding and synchronization of the activities between change management office and the project management office. Change management for all right, very important and essential discipline. Okay, so we keep on saying this, that now change management, the third generation of change management, is just not for specialists. So even the toning down of some of the language that we use, it's not hermetic. There isn't a mystery behind the language. It's not prescriptive in terms of what needs to be done, and it's really laid out in a simple way, in an understandable way, and also speaks to the agile approach, the unpredictable nature of projects as well, so that it cannot be prescriptive by nature. So you find that now change management is, we've made it easy, especially within HCM, for everyone to understand and apply its concepts. So hence what we have up there, change management for all, and an essential part of the change management third generation discipline. Practical and objective approach. So how you do it, how you put it into place, simple, easy, and can be understood by everyone. All right, and objective in terms of how it's carried out, and obviously with integration being promoted right here, you find that the easier that you make change management, the easier it is also to apply for the various people within the CMO and the PMO as well. All right, so as we manage with the third generation of change management, managing engagement is going to be very, very important, but also antagonisms. You're going to have people that, it's no secret, you cannot get along with everyone, and not everyone is going to be pro project or whatever it is that you're rolling out. So there will be a lot of antagonisms, or maybe sometimes antagonisms brought by culture clashes. And you also have as much of a mandate as well to manage those particular antagonisms, something that traditionally change management would normally shy away from. But we've actually made it part and parcel of discipline to actually take it head on, raise it as a risk, and get the necessary parties to deal with any antagonism, if not yourself. Okay, everything human is part of the change management, third generation. All right, so anything that is human that you are faced with, on your project. So like when you do your organizational impacts, for example, you will need to attend to all the human factors that come through in the earlier stages when you do your preliminary organizational impacts, when you do your detailed organizational impacts. You're going to sift and find out what are some of the human factors that have been disturbed that need to be attended to with regards to your third generation of change management. All right, we have a very interesting picture right here. Okay, and this really denotes, you know, the strategy aspects that we talk about when we look at change management in relation to the portfolio, the project management office. It needs to have speed, sequence, and there are simultaneous changes taking place. We know that 1 week you've got a mandate to carry out one thing in a project. There are stand-ups that happen throughout the, you know, that week, and you find that by the end of the day on a Friday, your mandate has shifted slightly, and that's the agile nature of things that you know, when we look at your agile projects. So there are multiple changes happening all over, and we need to take note of that. All right. So hence the additional and the new requirement for speed, sequencing, simultaneousness in terms of you know, your change management approach as well. Stakeholder saturation, yeah, that does happen. I don't think it's a secret, and I'm sure most of you raise your hand to say that, yeah, I've felt that. So that's also happening. The various stakeholders, they've got various needs, more of a pressing demand actually being made on everyone. I noticed with the, interesting enough, you know, with the COVID times, we thought that maybe working together and the demand on you for work would get better because you're not seeing these people, you know, your stakeholders, you're not seeing them, you're not facing up to them. But in a way, Zoom, MS Teams, you know, Google videos has actually made it worse. I think the saturation has become even more. I think there's more attention now on projects because of the COVID pandemic situation that we have. And that saturation has actually grown much more than it has ever done before. Initiatives to increase organizational resistance. So obviously, because of the multiple initiatives going on, you're going to find that the resistance that you felt before is not the same. They're going to be, because you're by nature you're doing a lot. By nature, you're dealing with a lot of people. And by nature, dealing with people, there will be areas of resistance of, you know, organizational and the need to actually increase organizational resilience within those areas that, you know, you do interact with. So just looking at the change management office, okay, our first point right there, area of function of the company that supports the planning and development of the organizational strategy from a human point of view. That is our definition of change management office. All right, the second definition, what we look at from a change management office, it works at influencing the prioritization of the portfolio projects and program with a view to organizational changes. Let me repeat that, all right? The second definition priority of the change management office is to work at influencing the prioritization of the portfolio of projects and programs with a view to organizational changes. So there is a strategic element right there. And there is a particular, almost like an intentional mandate on change management to actually be more influencing, to be hand in hand with the PMO, with the project team, and not sitting somewhere at the back right there. Okay, being ordered, you know, when to communicate, when to do certain events, when to do celebrations, etc. So it has become very strategic, the requirement, according to you know, the second objectives that we have up there. Yeah. Third objective, to develop and update the change management methodology, best practices, and tools. So like I said to you, unlike the second generation of change management where the tool will be put out there, prescriptive, hermetic in language, only understood by the special few, Because the mandate is now being placed upon change management to be part and parcel of the strategy, of the organizational mandate, to be part and parcel and integrate with the project management office. You'll find that therefore your requirement to be creative, innovative, and updating of a change management methodology has become very important. So best practice and tools, you need to look at your tools kit and say, what can I introduce? If it's communication, are there new ways of doing this communication? Is there something that will work more effectively? Can I be quicker in my surveys? Can I gather information a little bit better, a little bit more? Can I gain more trust? What tools can I put in place? So this has become very, very important within the change management office as well, just to be as creative as the PMO and innovative as well in terms of rolling out our various tools and methodologies that need to speak to the ever-changing environment around projects. Okay, I'm sure you've seen this diagram. Normally I see one fish jumping into the next one, but we know, I actually love this diagram. We know that when we get into projects, especially now, there are various projects taking place. Some are moving forward, some are going back. They need to go through reiteration. Some are actually just all over the shore. Some components are not moving. You see some little fishes right at the bottom there that actually represent some components within projects that just remain standing and need to be motivated, need to be moved to the next stage. This is a very good representation of that. So the mandate objective here of the change management is to plan, conduct, monitor, and support the various organizational changes all happening at the same time. Okay, so what we normally do, and it can be done through various ways, and it's something that we would normally advise, when you look at change management within a PMO. We normally like to, there are various tools that we can use, but we normally like to look at the level of maturity, of where an organization is, of where the project itself is, so we like to look at that. And we find that in our findings, we have several layers, right? So the first layer of maturity, which is your primary level 1. So it goes from level 1, as you go further, it gets better. So this is actually like the worst scenario to have this level 1 here. So some of the characteristics of level 1 is that the PMO simply does not exist. Okay, and you find that your change management focus, where you are at the primary level of maturity, the change management focus is limited to communication and training in a specific project. All right, you cannot do much more than that. All right, if you do, you're going to find that you'll be very frustrated. You're going to come across crashing on walls. There's no support mechanism in place to actually help you do more out of when you're in this primary stage, level of maturity rather. The second level of maturity, which is more operational. So the characteristics there is that they are departmental PMOs, okay? And change management focus is organizational impact assessment, all right? So a little bit more excitement around the change management mandate, but still not enough, all right? We're still operating within certain confines, which can also be very frustrating. And at this stage, also, you cannot do much more than maybe just around organizational impact assessment. All right, so the third level of maturity, which is pattern oriented, you find the characteristics, the roles of PMO is also advisory. And the change management focus here is to follow a pattern and is integrated with the project management team. So a little bit more excitement, but again, because PMO is just advisory, there is a limit in terms of what change management can actually carry out. Okay, so the state of the art, love this diagram. All right, so this is representing integration between PMO and CMO, and this is where we try to get through. All right, that particular integration right there, this is where we are trying to get through. And just to look at you at, when this starts happening, this is that now starts happening at level of maturity 4, where there's some technical management. The characteristics, what you tend to see in this particular level is that the PMO has a more corporate role, includes change management concepts in its approach, in its methodology. So you see that invite, bringing in, embracing change management starts happening at this particular level. And the change management focus, the CMO exists as part of the PMO structure. Again, falling short a little bit, all right? But there's that embracing that is happening more and more right here. Hence you see the little hand of marriage right there. There's a promise of togetherness, and there's still hope for more. The last level of maturity, strategic performance. So characteristics, the PMO and the CMO act in an integrated manner. All right. The change management focus, the CMO operates at the same level as the PMO. We've got a beautiful couple right there. Even though the baby doesn't look happy, it's supposed to represent our project management office, where there's integration, at this particular level. But yeah, that baby is too young to be smiling, but the baby is happy. All right. So again, this is now an intentional embracing of change management. There's mutual respect between the two. There's synchrony in terms of activities. There's understanding. There's participatory process happening at this particular stage, and this is the level that we all should be operating at. When we integrate the CMO and the PMO. So integration of change management and project management into practice. Some of the things that we need to look at, obviously, that will be included in that will be the mission, vision, and values of the organization. We also need to look at, planning and management of the execution of that strategy. That's all part and parcel of that, all right? So the best practice, so putting this into best practice, you need to have these components. Additionally as well, integrated performance of the PMO, CMO, HR, IT, and process improvement and finance areas. So all those that we normally call them support areas. I really do not like that term because, you had core and non-core being used to describe these traditionally areas that would happen in the background, like HR. But very important that they have the strategic elements and they are all talking together, integrated as well, with the inclusion of HR, IT, CMO, and finance itself. So you find that, there's interaction, there's back and forth, there's the participatory process, like I mentioned earlier on, happening at this particular stage. And this forms part and parcel of best practice, right? And then portfolio programs and projects aligned and prioritized within the organization that you're operating within. Preliminary impacts of the changes identified. We mentioned this before. Have a discussion with the sponsor. Sponsor has given you their views, discussing with the project team, the business, the vendors that you've brought in place, and have a common understanding, of what the impacts, initial impacts would be, because that's your starting base before you move into your more detailed understanding or on unraveling the detailed impacts, which tends to be a continuous process as you proceed with the project. So in short, ladies and gentlemen, projects are the means to translate the strategy's intentions into actions, aiming at objectives that will only be achieved if the organization changes. All right. So there is a mandate on the organization itself, to embrace this as it grows. The organizations that you're operating within, as they grow, there is a requirement to actually embrace this thinking a little bit more. Organizations change only if people and culture change. I mentioned in the previous examples, the maturity of an organization in terms of embracing a total integration of PMO and CMO. Culture is going to play a very important part in that as well. You know, are they forward thinking? Do they have the right leaders? You know, and this is what will encourage that integration and that forward movement in terms of effectiveness between the PMO and the CMO. Integrating the PMO and the CMO means taking care of all dimensions of strategy execution. So as you saw in the previous diagram right there, it's just not one particular area. So if there's a mandate set from the business in all the various areas, you know, of the organization, the PMO and the CMO means that that needs to be included in that integration that we spoke about. So we've been speaking about rather. All right, sadly, I have come to the end of my presentation. You know, as I said before, would like to keep the engagement going on. You can find out a little bit more about myself and interact with me if you'd like to do so personally. And also, if you'd like to find out a little bit more about what HUCMI is all about, you know, our exciting training and certification programs that we run, please go to the link on your right-hand side right there, agile.hucmi.com /. You can get a little bit more information, and we'll be very excited if you could download some of our articles that we have out there to get maybe a firmer understanding of the presentation I've just made.